Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to set up the player blueprint and the enemy blueprint, as well as how to save and load your game. The first thing we're going to look at is going to be adding the player and the AI characters, and then we'll look at adding the start menu, and finally we'll look at adding the save and load functionality. So if you have the Fantasy RPG game project file open, all you have to do is first of all create a new level. And we're not going to do any level design here, it's just going to be the floor. So I'll click on the floor and resize it and make it a bit big so we have more space to move around. And I'll go ahead and delete the player start. Then under the content browser, I'm going to go to the blueprints and open up the warrior folder. I'll click and drag the warrior character blueprint into the level. Okay, and once we've got that, we can go to the details panel and search for possess. Okay, so when you search for possess under the warrior character BP's details panel, you have to make sure you're clicked on the warrior character. So there'll be a pawn and auto possess player button, so you just click the drop down and set it to player 0 so that when you press play, that character blueprint is automatically possessed. Okay, so we'll just jump out of the game now. Basically we have our character here, so even if it's not set up as the default pawn for your project, it's still gonna be possessed and it will function the way it's supposed to. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to go back to our content browser, blueprints, and we want to open up our zombie folder for the zombie character blueprint. So this is an AI. We'll also drag and drop it into the level. We're going to have to do one or two things with this guy to get him functioning, because the way he is right now, if I just press play, he's not going to do anything. If he sees me, he'll probably he'll start walking around, but I don't think he will attack or anything like that, and that's because he hasn't been initialized yet, and also because there's no navigation mesh on the level, so he's just going to walk straight in the direction he's facing. It's obviously going to fall off the level just now. Yeah. So if we don't want that to happen, the first thing we have to do is put a navigation mesh on the level. So if you go to the modes place, you can search for nav, that's NAV, and get a nav mesh bounds volume. So you drop that in the level and you give it some, you scale it up. So if I just go to the scale and resize this to be a lot bigger, something like that size would probably do. I can make it a little bit shorter. So now we have a nav mesh in our level. If we press P, you can see the navigation area. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to have to do with this guy is I'm going to have to initialize him so that he can function, because under our zombie blueprint, in order for everything to begin and start working correctly, he has to be initialized first of all. Okay, so in order to initialize our zombie, we're going to have to go to the level blueprint. Okay, and we hit the open level blueprint button, and since we have our zombie blueprint selected, we can reference that actor in the level. You do that just by right clicking in an empty space and create reference to zombie blueprint. Okay, yeah, but you have to make sure that the zombie blueprint is selected. Okay, and then just drag the pin out and search for initialize. This is a custom event. Okay, so make sure you use initialize or reinitialize. Just hit that and connect it to the event begin play. So if I compile that and hit play, he's seen me and he's gonna attack me, and I can attack him and take him out. Yeah. So that's basically how you get your character onto the level and the enemy onto the level. They'll be functioning. So you just have to remember to initialize the zombie blueprint. Make sure you possess the character blueprint and make sure you have a nav mesh on your level, and everything should function correctly. So we're going to jump to the next part of the video now. Okay, so now we're going to look at how to set up our menu, our start menu. So we're going to change a few things, like we don't want the zombie to initialize immediately when we click the play button, because we don't want him to attack us while we're in the menu. We also don't want the player to move around while we're in the menu. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create the start menu through the level blueprint. So we'll go to our level blueprint, and like I said, we don't want the zombie to initialize immediately, so we're just going to disconnect this from the event begin play, and then we're going to drag out a pin and we're going to type create widget. So this will create our start menu widget. So under class, just search for start menu, and this creates our start menu widget. Just to have a quick look at it, again click the search button and double click on the start menu widget in the content browser. So this is our start menu. So what we want to do with this is we want to add it to the viewport immediately when we start playing. So under return value, just click and drag the pin out and search for add to viewport. Add to viewport. So this adds it to the viewport, and we'll be able to see our menu from there. Okay, so if we test that out, we've got our menu right here. So right now we're still controlling the player, we're not interacting with the menu. So what we're going to do next is we're going to first of all disable the input to the player so that we don't move around while we're in the menu. Okay. So just create a reference to the player, to the warrior blueprint, by clicking on the warrior blueprint, and I'll right click in an empty space in the level blueprint and create reference to the warrior blueprint, and then I'm going to drag a pin out from there and type disable input. Okay, so this warrior blueprint will not receive any input from the player controller, which we set here. So I'm going to I'll drag the pin out of the player controller, and then I'll type get player controller. This is where player 0. So we're just going to leave it on player 0. So now when we have our event begin play, we disable the input to the warrior blueprint, and creates our start menu. And the next thing we want to do is we want to be able to see the mouse cursor. Okay, so I'm going to right click in an empty space and I'm going to type get mouse. So mouse cursor, it won't appear here, so that's because it's context sensitive. So I'm going to uncheck the context sensitive button and I should be able to see it. So get mouse cursor, rather let's say set show mouse cursor. So set show mouse cursor to true, and this will show our cursor while we're playing and we'll be able to click on the menus. Okay, we have to set the target. The target should be the player controller. Okay, so we can just use the same player controller we created earlier. You might want to create a new one later on just to have a cleaner blueprint. But anyway, like this, we'll be able to see our cursor. So if we test that out, let's compile it first of all. Compile, and then hit play. So now, even if I press the movement buttons, we can't move the player at all. Since the zombie hasn't been initialized, it doesn't attack us, and we can click on the buttons. Okay, so even though I clicked on new game, it still won't move because I have to re-enable the input, but our mouse cursor is definitely functioning. Our menus are definitely functioning. Okay, so we'll go back into the level blueprint and we'll continue. The next stage is we have to possess the we have to re-enable the input to the warrior character after clicking the new game button or the continue button. So in order to do that, is what we have to do is under create start menu widgets, on the return value we're going to drag another pin and we're going to get the new game button. Okay, so when we drag the pin, we'll switch on context sensitive again, and then we're going to type new game. Okay, we have to keep context sensitive off, and we're going to get new game button, and we're going to click and drag on the pin, and we're going to type button pressed, and we're going to click under events. We're going to click assign on pressed, assign on, rather bind event on pressed. Okay. And what this will do is that every time we press that new game button, an event will be binded. Okay, so we want to bind a custom event. Make sure you connect this. Okay, and then our custom event, we're going to drag from the red box, and we're going to create a custom event, and we're going to name it start new game. Okay, so every time that button is pressed, this event will happen. Okay, so what we want this event to do is we want it to get our warrior character blueprint, and we wanted to enable input. So just create a reference to the warrior character BP and enable input so that our character is able to move around again and receive input. Okay, so connect that pin, and the controller is going to be 0. And just make it look a little bit cleaner if we can. Okay, so now if we compile that, we can test it out. And if I press new game, I'm able to move around again. So I'm not able to move right now, but if I click new game, I'm able to move around. So we'll go back to our level blueprint. I think we're halfway done. And the next thing we want is when start new game, when the custom event for the start new game button is called, we also want to initialize the zombie blueprint. So I'm just going to connect initialize after enabling the warrior character blueprint input. Okay. So now we have our start menu, and when we start a new game, our zombie is initialized. And everything works. Okay, so that's how you add the start menu. And I'm going to end this section right here, and in the next section we are going to look at how we can save and load the game. Right now, if I try to hit the continue button, it will just get the location of my last save game, which is somewhere on the level, but this actually isn't a save point. It's just information from a level which I created some time ago. So now we're going to create save locations and options for this level specifically. Okay, so now we're going to save our game. Okay, save and load our game. This final stage is going to be quite easy because the save game blueprints do most of the work for us. Actually, I think they do all the work for us. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go back into our level blueprint, because we want to give the continue button a function. Okay, so we're going to drag from the create start menu widget the return value. We'll drag a pin out of there, and we're going to get continue button. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing as we did with the new game button. We're going to bind an event on pressed, bind event on pressed, and we're going to connect this, and we wanted to do the exact same thing. So we're going to just drag from the event box and connect it to the start new game custom event we created earlier. Okay, so that's all we're going to do here. We'll compile that and save that. And then what we want to do here is we want to add the load audio settings blueprint, load graphics settings blueprint, and save game blueprint to the level. Okay, so in order for your saved settings to be loaded, all three of these blueprints need to be in the level. So we'll just drag and drop all of them into the level. Okay, you never actually see these. They are just blueprint actors. They don't have any meshes or models in them except for the save station blueprint. Okay. So we'll also add the save station blueprint. You added just somewhere over there. You can put it anywhere you want, but put it over there so that when we load our game, we also start in this exact location. Okay. So what this does is it creates the save menu whenever you access it. So I'm just going to show you. If I press play and start a new game, let me just get rid of this guy. But if I go to this actor and press F, says press F to save game and attributes. So if I press F, it will create a widget, okay, where I can set up my attributes, my health and stamina and so on and so forth. I don't have any points to add stamina, but if I press save and continue, what this is going to do is it's going to save my current location. Okay, it's going to save my current location into the save game blueprint. Okay, so that the next time I quit my game and then press play again, I can just hit the continue button and it will start me in that exact location. Okay. And all my attributes are saved by this blueprint as well. If we look at the blueprint itself, it's got quite a number of functions. It saves the game data, it saves the player attributes, the character customization, the inventory, the player location. It also checks whether you are starting a new game for the first time and so on and so forth. So yeah, it has a lot of things. So it actually does most of the work for you. You don't have to do anything yourself except add it to the level and make sure that the save game blueprint is there as well. The load graphics settings and load audio settings are in the level as well. And so I think this is probably it. That's how you can get started with your level. So if you have a level with like all your environment assets, your props and so on and so forth, in order to start a new game from that level, you basically just have to follow what I've shown you in this video and everything will function correctly.